Greetings to all dear delegates of Phoenix 2021, the virtual conference of Indian Association of Public Health Dentistry, Kerala chapter. The topic for this session today is Publish or Perish, the art of scientific publication. First and foremost, a question why there is a need to know this topic, especially in this crowd. We have a wide array of delegates who have registered for this conference. We have undergraduate students, house surgeons, postgraduate students, faculty members, and practitioners. Is this topic relevant to all of you listening to me right now? The answer is yes. Let me explain why. Although the topic feels like it is more important for the postgraduates and faculty members, because postgraduates, due to their mandatory requirement as per the university guidelines, they need to be actively involved in short-term and long-term research projects. They need to present seminars, conduct journal clubs. They need to be actively involved in evidence-based dentistry, and hence they need to have uh, thorough knowledge regarding scientific publications. Same applies for the faculty members because they are in charge of guiding the undergraduate and postgraduate students. They need to be abreast regarding latest developments in the field of dentistry. Hence, it is mandatory that these two groups need to continuously have a knowledge of scientific publication. When it comes to practitioners, we are currently in the era of evidence-based dentistry. Earlier, it was a traditional-based concept. We have moved on to evidence-based dentistry. We are inundated with a large number of informations, and hence, a proper and once you pass out of the dental school, it is the technology is progressing continuously. We are having new and new developments taking place. So it is ideal for any practitioner to stay abreast with all these knowledges through regular scientific reading. And as far as interns and students are concerned, they are all the future dental professionals, and hence they also require to know a proper. They require to know how to select a scientific publication for their reference, as well as they can come across various cases which can be published as case reports for dissemination of knowledge. So by the end of this session, I want you all to understand what is a scientific publication, know what are the different types of scientific publication, familiarize with terminologies associated with scientific publication, develop a clarity regarding the concepts of selection of a journal, indexing, authorship, types of journals, and the various journal metrics. Familiarize with various online tools that can help with the publication process, and understand what are the publication ethics and research misconducts. Now, what is a scientific publication? A scientific publication is a scholarly publication which reports the scientific data in an organized manner. It helps in translation of research work into literature. It helps in dissemination of scientific knowledge. And it is much required to carry the science forward. Now, there are various types of scientific publications. The first set of scientific publications include the primary articles, which in turn include the original research articles, case reports, case series, and technical notes. The original research articles are the publications of original research carried out. Case reports are the publication of a rare case or a rare treatment, and a series of similar type of cases in a single publication constitutes the case series. And technical notes refer to description of technique or a piece of equipment modified from the existing equipment. The second set of articles are called as secondary articles. These are based on the primary articles, which include narrative reviews and systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Now, narrative reviews is just a compilation of various primary articles. For example, if you want to write an article on efficacy of COVID vaccine, there have been numerous studies conducted worldwide regarding vaccine for COVID-19. And what is important here is you try to gather all this information, write a narrative review saying what are the various researches carried out in relation to the efficacy of COVID vaccine, and this is called as a narrative review. Whereas if you do a statistical analysis and further try to give a perfect answer to your research question, and it is a advanced statistical method that is known as systematic review. I'm trying to tell it in very simple terms because we have a lot of undergraduates and house surgeons in this crowd. The third method is called as, there are a set of articles called special articles, which include letters to editor. Letters to editor are communications to editors regarding any article published in the journal. It could be a constructive criticism. There could be correspondences. There could be short communication, which is a short research projects with very few pages and very few references. Editorials, they are short reviews or critical analysis of original articles, and commentaries, which are short summary of the author's personal experience. The last set of scientific publications include the tertiary and the gray literature, which include the unpublished literature and those which are published in a non-commercial form like government documents, etc. Next question is why we need to publish. For academic and research advancements, publications are mandatory. It helps in sharing idea, expertise, and evidence. It is for personal satisfaction, for societal contribution, and of course, for the postgraduate students out here, it is, you all know, it is a mandatory requirement for you to publish. And of course, for those into academics, it is a concern of job security. There could be peer pressure, and it is very much required for career advancement, and of course for funding opportunities. And because of the last 4 or 5 points, there is the dictum has changed to publish or perish. Now, how do we select a journal for publication? First criteria is the scope of the journal. Because we have different journals for different subjects, the first is each journal has a scope regarding what kind of articles do they accept. The next is the type of manuscript you have prepared. Then the peer review process. Some of the journals do not have a peer review system. I'll talk about that a bit later. But majority of the journals have a system of peer review. As soon as you submit a manuscript for publication, it undergoes an editorial review to assess the suitability of publishing that manuscript in that journal. And if it clears the editorial review process, the manuscript is sent to 2 or more subject experts to assess the quality of the manuscript. So depending on the procedure involved, it can be classified as single blind, double blind, and triple blind. The third factor is the speed of publication. There are some journals which publish very quick. You submit the journal today, you get an acceptance in a day or 2. Whereas there are most of the index journals, they take considerable amount of time for processing and maintaining the standards of their journal. The fourth is the journal reputation, which you can get to know by knowing the credibility of the editorial board and the publisher. The fifth is the acceptance rate. The next is, of course, article submission and processing charges. There are some journals which publish for free. You don't need to pay any processing charges, whereas some journals demand submission charges as well as processing charges. And very importantly, the indexing of a journal and the metrics associated with journals. So in the next half of my presentation, I'll be mainly focusing on these 2 aspects. What is indexing and what are the various journal metrics used for assessing the quality of a journal. Now, what is indexing of a journal? Indexing is a database of scientific journals having a good track record of maintaining the ethics and quality in terms of publication. So basically, it is the method of standardization of a journal based on the quality of publication. The database has an ordered list of cited articles, each accompanied by a list of references, and the journal contents are searchable using the subject headings or the keywords or the author's name, title, abstract, etc. Indexing reflects the quality of the journal, and obviously the index journals have a higher scientific quality. Indexing increases the visibility, validity, availability, and readership of the journal. It is the prestige of any journal, and these are the major indexing databases, especially for health science journals. So these indexing, which are displayed on the screen, are one among the topmost indexing databases that are referred as far as health science journals are concerned. So they are SCI and SCI Expanded, also known as the Web of Science, Scopus, Medline or PubMed, and PubMed Central. So a bit into detail about these four different types of indexing. The first is SCI or SCI Expanded. It is published by the Institute of Scientific Information or ISI as a part of Thomson Reuters, and it is being merged with Clarivate Analysis. And the electronic version of this is called as Web of Science. The second is Scopus. Scopus indexes not only health science journals but also other subject journals, including books and conference proceeding. It is mainly by the Elsevier publishing firm. The third is the most accepted indexing as far as health science journals are concerned. It is known by various names. I'll just clarify the difference between the names. The United States National Library of Medicine started this indexing known as the Index Medicus, and that continued till 1960 when the computerization began. So this Index Medicus was later known as Medlars, and now it is known as Medline. So the current name of this index is Medline, and PubMed is a free search engine which accesses the data from Medline indexing. So there is a slight confusion regarding these terms. The actual term for indexing is the Medline, whereas PubMed is only a repository from which you can search articles that are indexed under Medline, though both the terms have been used synonymously. The next is PubMed Central. It is again another free digital repository that archives full text articles. So this also includes PubMed Index Journal, Medline Index Journal, as well as in journals which are not indexed to Medline, but you have an access for a free full text. So some of the PubMed Central journals are also Medline indexed. There are other indexing databases like Experta Medica or Embase, which is mainly by Elsevier. It is for pharmacological database. Then you have Indian Citation Index and Index Copernicus, and few more indices like Google Scholar, Directory of Open Access Journals, OpenLGate, SIAC database, Ulrich's International Periodic Directory, Advanced Science Indexing, and CiteFactor. This is not an exhaustive list. There are even more number of indexing databases. However, the first four which we discussed are important as far as healthcare journals are concerned. Now, how do we identify if a journal is indexed to Web of Science, Scopus, or Medline? Why I'm telling you this is with a mad rush of publication that we can see now, there are a lot of journals which come under the category of predatory journals. So next I'll be talking about predatory journals. So in order to make sure that it is not a predatory journal, you can cross-verify the claim which they have. The predatory journals falsely claim they have been indexed under these databases, but you can visit these three links. The first link is for knowing whether your journal is indexed in Web of Science. You can visit that link, type in the name of the journal, it tells you the details regarding indexing. The second site gives you a downloadable Excel format of all the journals indexed with Scopus. It also tells you the list of journals which have been removed from the Scopus list recently. So that keeps on getting updated. You can have a first-hand information by visiting that website. The third is to know whether the journal is indexed with Medline. You can log into that website and type the name of the journal. It tells you the date of indexing, the current status of indexing with Medline. So before you proceed with publication, just ensure whether your journal is having this indexing in case they claim that it is indexed in these databases. Now, what are these? What I was talking to you till now is about credible journals. Now, what are predatory journals? Credible journals are those journals which have a code of conduct, they have a system of peer review, they have a standard and quality to be maintained, they take enough time for publication, and there is a lot of rejection. Such kind of journals are called as credible journals. They usually have high standard indexings. Whereas when you talk of predatory journals, these are the journals that are mushrooming right now. You just submit the manuscript, the second day you get a confirmation, you pay the money, and it is published. So predatory journals you should be beware of because it is not considered as a good publication as far as the quality of the journals are concerned. So predatory journals are actually a global threat. They accept articles for publication along with author fees without performing any quality control checks such as plagiarism or any ethical approval. They deviate from all the editorial and publishing policies and they, most importantly, provide false or misleading information in their websites. So how can you identify a proprietary journal? There is a list called as Beale's list that has been compiled by librarian Jeffrey Beale. You can see the link to this list. Once you get into this link and you type the name of the journal, you can get to know whether it is listed as a predatory journal. So this is also a list which keeps on getting updated frequently. You can also confirm before submitting your paper. So according to the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, authors have the total responsibility to evaluate the integrity, history, practices, and reputation of the journals to which they submit the manuscripts. Next, coming to what are the journal metrics. So the journal metrics measure the rank of the journal. It helps you in knowing what is the position of the journal in comparison to similar other journals in the same subject. So it is nothing but a journal ranking. There are different metric systems used to assess this. They include the impact factor, the site score, source normalized impact per paper, Simago journal ranking, and H-index. So a bit into detail about how these metrics differ. The first is the impact factor. It presents the relative importance of a journal within a field. It is based on the average number of citations to recent articles published in the journal. So higher the impact factor, more prestigious is the journal. Now, how do we calculate impact factor? For example, there is a journal named X. Now, this journal, the past 2 years, how many people have cited the articles published in this journal as their reference? That is the meaning of citation. So the total number of citations a journal receives in the previous 2 years divided by the total number of research and review articles published by that journal during that 2 years time. So this directly tells you how many people refer to that journal and how many people quote the articles published in that journal as their references. So the higher is the impact factor, higher is the readability, higher is the visibility, and higher is the quality of the journal. The next is site score. Site score is published by Elsevier. It is also similar to journal impact factor. The only difference is instead of 2 years, it is the average citations that a title receives over a 3-year period. So this covers maximum number of journals compared to impact factor. The next is source normalized impact per paper. The difference between this and the previous two metrics is that this gives weightage to the total number of citations in relation to the subject. That is, if the subject, the publications are very few in number, a journal which publishes that content gets some more weightage. So it is not uniform for all the journals. It depends on the subject or the field of publication. Depending on the frequency of publication, that respective subject, there is a weightage given. There is one more called as Simago Journal Ranking, abbreviated as SJR. This also does not treat all citations equal, but it depends on the field of the subject, the quality, the reputation, and it is based on data from Scopus. And all the journals analyzed by SJR have been categorized into Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. So when you open these journal websites, you can find that they are indexed as Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Now, what does this quartile stand for? Q1 is the top 25% of the publications in that context. Q2 refers to 25 to 50%. Q3 is 50 to 75, and Q4 is 75 to 100. So the top 25% journals come under Q1 and so on. So the Q1 journals are definitely of higher standards compared to Q2, Q3, and Q4. Now the next matrix is called the H-index. H-index is also known as the Hirsch index, and it is for journals as well as author. Now for author, how it is calculated is, suppose I've given an example here. Suppose an author has so many publications, 8 publications. The highest cited publication is 33. So you write it like this. The first article is cited 33 times. The second article is cited 30 times. Third is cited 25 times. And the number at which both of this match, that is 6, is the H index of this particular author. Now, how is that relevant? That is, the higher the H index, it shows the research productivity and the activity as a researcher is there even now. So it measures the current research output of the author. Similarly, H-index can also be used to calculate for the metrics of the journal. Next, there is another index called I10 index. This is given by Google Scholar. It refers to the total number of publications with at least 10 citations. And it is a very simple measure, but it is used only in Google Scholar. And there is another matrix by the University Grants Commission. It is called as the UGC CARE list. Earlier there were 4 categories of journals, A, B, C, and D. Currently, according to UGC CARE, there are only 2 categories, Group 1 and Group 2. Group 1 are those identified and selected based on the UGC's criteria, and Group 2 include those journals which are indexed with Web of Science and Scopus. Next, very important for those who are into academics and those who are planning to get into academics, this is the Dental Council of India, the latest revised guidelines for promotion. So Dental Council of India divides the journals into 3 categories. The first category is 15 points, second category is 10 points, and third category is 5 points. So included in the first category are those journals indexed to PubMed, that is Medline, as well as those indexed to Web of Science and those indexed to Scopus. So all 3, this is the recent addition, Web of Science and Scopus. Earlier it was only Medline. So this belongs to the first category or category 1. Also, the journals published by Indian or International Dental Specialty Association approved by Dental Council of India. So any original research publication in this category, all the authors are eligible for 15 points. And if it is a review or case report, the first author gets full points and the rest of the author gets 50% of the points. So if it is category 1, it is 15 for the first author and the rest get 7.5. Category 2 includes journals published by government health universities, then studies approved by Indian Council of Medical Research, and category 3 includes the journals published by deemed universities, Indian Dental Association, and dental teaching institutions. So as I told earlier, for original research, all authors receive the full weightage, whereas for review articles and case reports, the first author receives the full points and the remaining up to 5 authors receive 50% of the weightage. And this is the criteria required for promotion. To be promoted as a reader, one needs to accumulate 20 points. For professor, it is 30, and for professor and head, it is 40 points. Now, how do you choose the right journal? Suppose you have a manuscript, you don't know where you need to send the journal. I can give you 4 examples. You can log into these online websites, type in your keywords, you can paste your abstract also, and that will automatically tell you which type of journals accept these kind of articles. Of course, all what is described here is index journals. You don't have any predatory journals that are linked to these websites. They suggest good journals where you can publish depending on your subject and field of study related to the manuscript. The next is authorship, another very important and debatable issue. The authorship confers credit and has important academic, social, and financial implications because authorship implies responsibility and accountability for published work. Now, who is considered as an author? A very important criteria. It is given by the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. There are 4 criteria for considering a person as an author for a publication. The first criteria is he should have substantial contribution to the conception or design of work, acquisition of data, analysis of data, or interpretation of data for the work. Second, he should be involved in drafting the work and revising it critically for important intellectual content. The third, he should give a final approval of the version to be published. And fourth, he should agree to be accountable for all aspects of the work. Only a person satisfying all these 4 criteria are eligible to become author for a said publication. Then there are some concepts called first author and last author, though there is not much of a difference by tradition in medical literature. Unless alphabetically listed, the first author makes the maximum contribution and the last author is the one who is supervising it, or the principal investigator or the most senior most investigator usually is the last author. There is recently another concept called shared first authorship. If you have equal contributions, the first two authors can be considered as the first author depending on their contribution. Then there is another term known as corresponding author. It refers to the author who is responsible for submitting the paper for publication, managing all the communication and correspondence, and handling revisions and resubmissions. Now, those who do not fit into these four criteria, they should actually not be given authorship, but they can be acknowledged in the acknowledgement section for helping out with the publication and research. They are known as the non-author contributors. Next, lastly, I would like to talk about what are the different publication ethics misconducts. There are numerous misconducts that can happen during publication. The first is falsification, one common misconduct where you tend to manipulate the data so that you get a proper desired result. This is known as falsification. Second is known as obfuscation, which relates to deliberate act of making things unclear and unintelligible. The meaning of this is the reader themselves get confused regarding what are you trying to tell. And this kind of a misconduct is called obfuscation. The second is fabrication. Many times data are cooked up in case you are not able to get the desired results. You result in cooking up data or fabricating data. This is called as fabrication. The fourth is suppression. When you get results which are not in line with other researchers, you get a different research or a negative result, you tend to suppress those findings. That is known as suppression. Next is plagiarism. Plagiarism is utilizing someone else's work or copying and pasting from some other journals without giving due credit to the main article or the primary source. This kind of a copy and paste mechanism is known as plagiarism, which is considered as a serious breach in publication ethics. And it is always advised to write the entire manuscript in your own language to avoid the remotest chance of plagiarism. Self-plagiarism is recycling or reusing your own work without appropriate disclosure or citation. That is known as self-plagiarism. Then we have ghostwriting. Ghostwriting involves a person who is preparing the manuscript is different from the person who has done it. Somebody else does it for him on monetary benefit, and this is called as credit is taken by somebody, the publication is done by somebody else. This kind of writing is called as ghostwriting. The next is bare assertions. Claim of a fact without supporting evidence is called as bare assertions. Improper authorship, those it is called as gifting of authorship or undeserved authorship. That includes what I have told earlier, those who do not satisfy the criteria, when you are giving them authorship, it is called as improper authorship. Redundant publication includes duplicate publication or multiple publications sending the same manuscript to different journals. It is called as redundant publication. Then violation of ethical standards regarding human and animal experiments. And lastly, it is called salami slicing, which involves breaking up of one research into different small research and publishing it as small research papers. So breaking one single research, by doing that, you are diluting the study, and salami slicing is also considered as publication misconduct. So these are a set of plagiarism detector tools. If you can log on to these websites and put your articles, it tells you how much of data is plagiarized so that you can make necessary changes before correction. The first three are available free of cost, though they have word limit. You need to put it in multiple installments, whereas your Viper and Turnitin are paid softwares which can give you a more detailed plagiarism analysis for your manuscript. So coming back to the objectives, this is where we started with our presentation today. So the objectives of this presentation was to understand what is a scientific publication. I hope it is clear. Know what are the different types of scientific publication, familiarize with the terminologies associated with scientific publication, develop a clarity regarding the concepts of selection of a journal, indexing, authorship, types of journals, and journal metrics. Familiarize with various online tools. I have given a set of online tools which can be used in facilitating your publication process, and understand the publication ethics and research misconduct. So these are certain articles you can read for further detail regarding or in-depth knowledge regarding what we have covered today. So thank you all for patient hearing. I thank the organizers of this conference and the online partners, the Dentistry Online, for giving this opportunity to share a few words with this crowd. And in case of any clarifications, you may contact me at my email address is given below. Thank you everybody for a patient listen.